Hello, here's a fresh episode of BOI Weekly. I'm Kayode Alayande. I use the word fresh on purpose because today on the program, we are going to the house of bread, fresh bread. But before I take you there, let's take a moment to talk a little bit about bread. Generally, Nigerians do love bread, and I'm sure you do too. But studies on bread consumption in Nigeria have revealed that a large percentage of the product consumed in the country occurs below the middle belt, and that the urban centers of this region account for the majority of consumers. It is believed that the consumption of bread in Nigeria would rise in response to both population surge and rural to urban migration. Despite the rising costs of making bread, bakeries continue to spring up across the country. But of course, the Bank of Industry is encouraging investment in that direction. It recently supported Sunset Bakeries and Equipment, makers of the different variations of Maggy bread. They are located right in the heart of Asaba, the Delta State capital. Sunset Bakeries has now risen to become one of the leading bakers in the Niger Delta region, many thanks to the Bank of Industry. I was recently there. Come with me.
The agricultural sector due to limited processing and preservation capacity. This results in high food prices and food importation with its attendant effects on the nation's foreign reserves. To enable Nigerians optimize the benefits from the country's vast agricultural products such as cassava, oil palm, rice, tomatoes and others, the Bank of Industry has launched a 5 billion naira cottage agro-processing fund, the CAP Fund. Customers can access the fund to establish plans to process our various agro-produce into food products or intermediate raw materials for industries at a single-digit interest rate of 9% per annum. For more information on the CAP Fund, please visit www.boinigeria.com/capfund. Bank of Industry, developing Nigeria's agro-processing industry through the CAP Fund.
After being led into the managing director's office, a brief exchange of civilities soon snowballs into the purpose of our visit, and our host, Mrs. Margaret Ajufo, promptly prepares us for the excursion. All right, you can see that we are dressed for the kitchen right now. It's a little bit warm on the production floor, and you know the saying, if you cannot stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen. We're dressed for the kitchen right now. We're going into the production floor. We want to see what's going on in there. I know we have the ovens there, several of them. We also have the mixers. Let's see how bread is made in here. So once we descended into the bakery, the managing director shows me the bread making process. The first point of call is the room where the ingredients for the bread, known as the premix, is being prepared.
Our production starts from here. Every ingredients have been weighed.
Okay.
This is our nutrients. This is a calcium propionate, our butter. This is our enzyme. And then you have the salt, the sugar dam, everything is inside. So we carry the premix and we pour it into the bowl. That is the Nutris. Nutris.
What's
Then
that?
the butter or the margarine.
What's that?
That's our enzyme. Calcium propionate. Then we have our soya. We have the soya milk.
Okay, soy milk.
Yeah. Then the salt, the sugar will go in. Then the yeast. Yeast.
Okay.
After the flour must have been poured in. This is a spiral mixer, and the capacity is for 3 bags of flour. So we use the spiral mixer to mix our flour. Then we add a packet of yeast to it. And then at this point, we move it in for the mixer itself. That is the mixer. This is the mixing bowl. It's called a spiral mixing bowl. We have pushed in the mixer into the fixed bowl. So it becomes a fixed bowl when you push it in, so it's not fixed. So we're going to use it to mix the flour and all the ingredients that is in it. But before then, we're going to do a dry milling.
A dry milling?
Yeah, we mill it, we mix it dry.
All right, let's see
for
how
for 1 minute. Next thing is we're adding water. Okay. Yeah. The water is chilled at 1 degree centigrade.
Why do you have to use chilled water?
Because the chilled water will help to inhibit the activity of the yeast. We don't want the yeast to start action until it gets into the pan. Because if it starts before getting into the pan, the strength of the gluten will be reduced. So we want the yeast to be inactivated. That is why we are using this chilled water.
So that it becomes latent
until
you need it.
When we need it. So because if the water is not chilled, after the mixing, the dough will be very hot. And when the dough is hot, the yeast activity will be fast. And when the yeast activity starts before the pan, the yeast will be weakened. And the gluten is not so powerful as to keep getting better. So what we do in helping the gluten is to use chilled water to enhance our products. Push it back, it starts. So it's going anti-clockwise. It's going to mix for 3 minutes. Okay. Then from the 3 minutes mixing, it goes automatically to a fast mixing, which is called the milling. This slow one is the mixing. Yeah. When you finish mixing, it's going to go into milling.
All right, so.
And it's going to mill for 10 minutes. So it's 10 minutes since we started the mixing, and so the dough is ready now. So we move it out and push it to the lifter. This is the dough lifter. This is the lifter. This This is the lifter. It's going to use the oil to lubricate the edges, to make it easy to pour out into the hopper. We're lifting the dough now. The dough and the bowl, we're lifting it into the hopper. That is the hopper.
It gets even more interesting. This is where the bakery floor gets real busy. It's not until the dough leaps out of the intermediate prover that it gets the first real contact with hands. It's such an engaging process.
Yeah, from the volumetric divider, it goes into the rounder. This is called a conical rounder. Then from the conical rounder, it goes through a conveyor. This is the conveyor. But before going through the conveyor, the flour splashes.
Adjust it. What is it?
This flour splash helps to reduce sticking as it goes into the intermediate prover. This is called an intermediate prover. The intermediate prover, the function is to allow the dough to be set for fermentation. It gives the dough the stamina to be able to stand fermentation. So as it goes in, until the whole plate is completed, before it starts coming out from into the molder. So from the molder, we pick it and we put into the various pans and then send them into the automatic prover where they ferment for 2 hours.